Shannon Sharpe. This guy was a former 3-time Super Bowl champion, Hall of Famer in the NFL, and he's more known for his TV personality than what he was playing American football. So a lot of people, like me, don't really know how good he was really. Despite the fact that I've checked out a lot of NFL videos, I've learned a lot about the NFL in the last 2 years or so. I don't really know what this guy was all about, to be honest with you. Like, I just know he was a good talker. He was a charismatic guy. He used to talk a lot. I've seen some interviews that he did while he played. That definitely showed that he had a future in the showbiz business. But I don't really know how good he was. So I'm really looking forward to this video. So let's get right into it.
For all you youngsters who think Shannon Sharpe is just a media personality, oh boy, are you wrong. Unlike his talk show counterparts, Unc could ball. Not only is he a Hall of Famer with 3 Super Bowl rings, but he revolutionized the tight end position and forever changed the way an NFL offense operates. As one of the biggest personalities in NFL history, Shannon loved to talk on and off the field, but he always backed it up. So, how good was he actually? And where does he rank among the greatest tight ends of all time? Sharpe was born into a poor family in Glenville, Georgia. His parents split when he was just 3 months old, immediately giving him adversity to overcome. Basic needs were not guaranteed in the rural South, and neither was his family's safety. In fact, during his Hall of Fame speech, Sharpe explained that, "We were so poor, a robber once broke into our house, and we ended up robbing the robber." To make matters worse, Sharpe's father passed away from cancer when he was in his early teens, leaving him without a father figure for a large part of his youth. Luckily for Shannon and his siblings, his grandmother, Mary Porter, stepped in to raise them. Porter also helped take care of several other extended family members.
See, my grandmother and grandfather, they raised me, and I hung on everything they say, but they didn't know it.
So everyone lived packed into one small home, barely fit for a family of 4.
You know, there was no paneling in the house. There was no insulation in the house. It was basically cinder block. It was really, really cold in the winter.
But while the Sharpe family didn't have much, what Shannon and his older brother Sterling did have was sports. That was going to be their way out. At Glenville High School, Sterling was a superstar athlete playing basketball, football, and running track. He became a high-profile football recruit that took his talents to the University of South Carolina. Shannon had hoped to follow in his brother's footsteps, and as an athlete, he did. He was also a star multi-sport athlete, but in the classroom, he struggled. So his only offer came from the local Division II school, Savannah State. Sharpe would continue to play multiple sports at Savannah, playing basketball, competing in track and field events, and suiting up for the Tigers football team. But it was quickly obvious that the gridiron was where Sharpe was at his best. Shannon set many records while at Savannah State, totaling a whopping 192 receptions for 3,744 receiving yards and 40 touchdowns over 4 years. And while Shannon was dominating the inferior D2 competition, his brother Sterling was doing the same at USC, then in the NFL. At South Carolina, Sterling set nearly every receiving record, which led to him being drafted 7th overall by the Green Bay Packers in 1988. Then, by just his 2nd year in the NFL, he was already a first-team All-Pro. But despite his brother's instant success, nobody was paying close attention to Shannon.
I'm the best, Sterling. I'm better than you are, you know it.
The NFL was far different 30-plus years ago, and tight ends were expected to be closer physically to offensive tackles than wide receivers. While Sterling was the ideal NFL wide receiver, Shannon was just a tweener with good stats. The future NFL legend was written off and seen as a project rather than a weapon. Little did they know, Shannon would go on to change the course of the tight end position forever. Because after a grueling 6 rounds undrafted in the 1990 NFL Draft,
that round 1 was off the table, but I thought I was good enough to be a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick.
The Denver Broncos took a shot on the undersized tight end.
And I picked up the phone, and it was the Broncos. And they said, "We selected you in the 7th round."
But like other teams' evaluations of Sharpe, they didn't believe he was a tight end. Instead, they committed to playing him as a wide receiver. Denver failed. Over 1990 and 1991,
the
Sharpe
was that he wasn't big enough to be a tight end. He was more of like, an athletic, fast guy that could play the wide receiver. So he wasn't good enough to be, like, he wasn't big and like, And it's very funny when you look at Shannon Sharpe now these days, and this guy was actually looked at as someone that wasn't big enough to play the tight end. It's really, really funny.
first 2 NFL seasons, he totaled just 29 receptions for 421 receiving yards. Legendary QB John Elway was leading the offense, but Sharpe struggled to make an impact. And to make things worse, this was all happening while Shannon lived in the shadow of his brother Sterling. While Shannon was trying to get his footing in the NFL, Sterling continued racking up All-Pro and Pro Bowl honors for the Green Bay Packers. So Shannon struggling to make an impact only created a sense that one brother was meant for NFL greatness and the other was simply a role player. In 1992, Sharpe finally broke through expectations and never looked back. Broncos head coach Dan Reeves decided to play Sharpe where he belonged, at tight end, and the results were immediate. Sharpe exploded for 53 receptions and 640 receiving yards, which led all tight ends in the league. The Broncos had found something special. Of course, the other NFL teams had talented tight ends that were putting up numbers, but Denver had only scratched the surface of what Sharpe could become. In the 1993 season, Sharpe reached new heights again, and as his relationship with John Elway grew, so did his numbers. The Broncos tight end had a whopping 81 receptions for 995 yards and 9 touchdowns. For the first time, Sharpe was named first-team All-Pro. That's a special honor for any player, but it also marked the first and only time that Shannon was named to the squad during the same year as his brother Sterling. Shannon was no longer living in his brother's shadow. Instead, they were shining together. Sadly, the Sharpe brothers didn't get a chance to complete that feat again after Sterling suffered a career-ending neck injury that forced him into early retirement. Sterling's career was robbed from him after just 7 NFL seasons. It was a gridiron tragedy that Sterling, who looked destined to be a Hall of Famer, could not keep playing in the NFL alongside Shannon.
But I played football because my brother played. And man, it broke my heart when he said it was over.
As heartbreaking as Sterling's injury was.
Wait. The fact that Shannon Sharpe was probably better than Shannon Sharpe, but Shannon Sharpe ended up being the Hall of Famer and Shannon Sharpe wasn't. That just shows you how interesting life can be. Shows you how interesting life can be sometimes. Like, wow, that's just an incredible story. And I'm not trying to say that, like Sterling, I'm not trying to celebrate on his downfall or anything. I'm just like, it's just so interesting thinking about it that Shannon Sharpe was the guy he was the guy. Shannon Sharpe was just this guy that was, okay, Sterling's brother, not that great, fine, role player, good, has a place in the NFL, not that great. But the fact that it turned out the other way is really, really remarkable.
It only added further motivation for Shannon. The Broncos tight end was dedicated to representing the Sharpe name, and he would eventually get the chance to honor his brother's playing career with the ultimate tribute. However, Sharpe was still relentless in pursuing his ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl title. By 1995, the Broncos had built a team that could match up with anyone offensively, and it was time to take advantage of that. But it didn't come easy. The Broncos struggled in the 95 season under new head coach Mike Shanahan, failing to make the playoffs at 8-8. Frustratingly for Sharpe, the Denver defense let them down on several occasions, while the offense finished 3rd in the NFL in total yards. Even worse, Sharpe missed significant time due to an injury for the first time in his career. The Broncos tight end only started 12 games, but still scored 4 touchdowns and totaled 756 receiving yards, the second most of any NFL tight end that season. Performing at that level while injured only further proved Sharpe's talent and toughness, and he was rewarded for playing through injury, as he was named to the Pro Bowl for the 3rd consecutive year. In '96, the Broncos began to realize their potential, and in his 2nd year as head coach, Shanahan leaned on Sharpe as the Broncos started the campaign with an astonishing 12-1 record. They went on to outscore opponents 391 to 275 that season, finishing the year 13-3. With Sharpe being the key reason for their offensive success. In 15 games, Sharpe brought down 80 receptions for 1,062 yards and a career-high 10 touchdowns. And as he was torching opponent defenses, he would let them know about it. The New England Patriots found that out the hard way. In the middle of a dominant 34-8 win, Sharpe pulled out a red telephone on the sideline and infamously shouted,
"President, we need a National Guard. We need as many men as you can spare because we are killing the Patriots."
Unfortunately, trash talking can come back to haunt you. And for Sharpe that season, it did. While the Patriots would go on to play in the Super Bowl, Denver suffered a shocking 30-27 upset to the Jacksonville Jaguars in their first playoff game. Sharpe and the Broncos were back to square one. Over that '96 season, they had become the team to beat in the NFL, and getting beat in the first round of the playoffs wasn't part of the script. Considering that John Elway was now 37, time was running out. But after being humbled, the Broncos had a chip on their shoulder entering the '97 season. Denver won their opening 6 games, with Sharpe bringing down 18 receptions for 266 yards and a touchdown. Not a bad start, but the best was yet to come for the Broncos tight end. Over the next 10 games, Sharpe crossed the 80-yard mark 5 times. While he only reached the end zone 3 times in that regular season, his 1,107 receiving yards was truly incredible. In fact, no other tight end that season even came close to matching him. Sharpe beat the next closest competitor by 320 yards. In terms of pure impact, his 15.3 yards per catch that season was vital to the Broncos' success. But Sharpe's goal wasn't to lead the NFL in various stats, it was to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. To do that, they would need to exorcise the demons of the '96 season by beating the Jags in another postseason opener. And they did more than just beat them. Denver dominated Jacksonville in their postseason rematch, winning 42-17. Then, in the AFC Championship game, they played against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sharpe made multiple key receptions down the stretch in a close 24-21 win. Finally, after 8 seasons, Sharpe was playing for a ring. Years and years of struggle, success, and falling just short had culminated in the Super Bowl 32 bout against the Green Bay Packers. The Packers were the defending champs and the favorite, but the Broncos got hot early, jumping out to a 17-7 lead. Sharpe didn't get in the end zone, but Elway always looked to him as his security blanket, targeting Sharpe a team-high 5 times. In a Super Bowl classic, Denver and Green Bay traded blows before the game was tied at 24-all in the fourth quarter. That tie was broken with little time remaining as Terrell Davis reached the end zone for the Broncos at the 1:45 mark in the fourth quarter. Denver's defense held up on the following drive, and the Lombardi Trophy swapped hands to the Broncos. The narratives around John Elway finally reaching the top of the mountain dominated the national media, but Sharpe's journey deserves just as much press. A 7th-round pick out of Savannah State was now a Super Bowl champion, and Sharpe would finally get to honor the cut-short career of his brother Sterling. Shannon gifted his Super Bowl ring to Sterling.
And we're doing an interview with NBC, and we're sitting down talking. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give him the Super Bowl ring.
Some things are bigger than personal success, and the Sharpe brothers clearly understand that. But what do you do after you accomplish your ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl? You do it again, and you do it in even more dominant fashion. After an impressive 12-4 regular season campaign in their first Super Bowl season, the Broncos followed that up with a 14-2 run in 1998. Denver dismantled their opponents, initially starting on a...
I mean, watching all these videos, all these clips, makes me feel some kind of way. It really, really makes me feel some kind of way, considering the fact that Shannon Sharpe ended up having 2 hip replacements, a number of surgeries. I mean, if you see the way he walks now, he's almost walking like a newborn baby. And I'm not trying to say this in a derogatory way. Like, I just saw the video. Like, I've never seen him. You know, most of the time I used to see Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed. He's sitting down. On Nightcap, he's sitting down. That video was the first time I ever saw him really walking. I never saw him walking before. That looked really, really odd. It looked really, really odd. And those hip replacements and all those surgeries, it's really, really scary, man. It's really, really scary.
Streak to open the season. So much for the Super Bowl slump, huh? The stats were wild. Sharpe and the Broncos scored 31.3 points per game, establishing themselves as one of the most dynamic offenses in NFL history. In 18 total games played, Denver won 15 games by 2 scores or more, including all 3 of their playoff games. Sharpe didn't cross the 1,000-yard receiving mark, but he did reach 10 touchdowns for the 2nd time in his career. For a 3rd consecutive year, Sharpe was named a first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. It was a storybook ending for Elway, who retired at the end of the season.
I just can't compete at the level in this game that I want to compete at anymore.
For Sharpe, that was a huge deal. The only quarterback he had ever really known in the NFL was gone, and now the Broncos had to start again with someone new. And unfortunately for Sharpe, it just didn't pan out. He had multiple injuries in 1999, limiting him to just 5 total appearances. By the following offseason in 2000, the 4-time All-Pro was a free agent, and he was going to take his talents elsewhere. After 10 seasons in Denver, Sharpe joined a talented Baltimore Ravens team for the 2000 season. The Ravens boasted 2 legendary legendary running backs in Jamal Lewis and Priest Holmes, but sorely lacked a downfield threat. So that's where Sharpe came in. Baltimore prided itself on its defense, but Sharpe took them to a new level on offense, and the numbers prove it. The veteran tight end led the entire squad in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, with 810 yards and 5 scores. The Ravens went from an 8-8 team in 1999 to a powerhouse that finished 12-4 in 2000. Somehow, that record didn't win the AFC Central due to the Tennessee Titans going 13-3, but Sharpe and the Ravens would have the last laugh. To open the postseason, Baltimore dismantled Sharpe's former team. The Ravens beat the Broncos 21-3 as Sharpe exploded for 3 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Now, Sharpe and Baltimore got their shot at the Titans in the divisional round. After a fairly close game to start, the Ravens broke the contest open in the fourth quarter to win 24-10. Sharpe only made 1 catch, but it was a monstrous 53-yard grab that was a huge momentum shifter for Baltimore. And that huge catch against the Titans was a foreshadowing of the AFC Championship clash with the Oakland Raiders. In a 16-3 victory, Sharpe made the most famous play of his career. First, catching a pass at the Ravens' 12-yard line, Sharpe ran all the way down the field for a 96-yard touchdown. It was the only touchdown in Baltimore's victory and the longest score of Sharpe's career. After 3 exceptional games, Sharpe had once again reached the Super Bowl. Sharpe made just 1 catch for 5 yards in the big game, but Baltimore defeated the New York Giants 34-7 for the team's first ever Super Bowl victory. Sharpe would spend 1 more season with the Ravens, going for 811 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in 2001. He was named to his final Pro Bowl that season, marking his 8th appearance. The Ravens would not replicate their previous postseason success, losing in the divisional round.
And as painful as it is to say this, they have a better football team than what we got.
But Sharpe had made his mark in Charm City and had a Super Bowl ring to show for it. To wrap up his career, Shannon returned to Denver. To no one's surprise, he was still a massive problem for opposing defenses. Over 28 games in his final 2 years, Sharpe racked up 1,456 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. Tight ends today are some of the most game-breaking weapons in the NFL, combining speed and size to create the ultimate mismatch. They have Shannon Sharpe to thank for that, being arguably the most influential player to ever play that position. To this day, Sharpe is still top 5 among tight ends in receptions and receiving yards. He is, without a doubt, a top 5 tight end in NFL history. His legacy was cemented in 2011 when he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His presence on television and social media has made Sharpe more famous than ever. Even people who don't watch football know who he is, thanks to memes and clips of Sharpe doing his thing. But it's important to remember why he was put on TV in the first place. It's because he always has had the game to go along with the gab.
I mean, Shannon Sharpe is turning out to be one of the probably the greatest former athletes personality. Like they've been other ones. Okay, Charles Barkley. Okay. Charles Barkley should be probably the GOAT when it comes to that. But the way Shannon Sharpe is going, actually, is he like, okay, let me put it like this. When it comes to just sport contents, Charles Barkley is the GOAT in terms of because of the inside the NBA and all that kind of a thing. But when it comes to just in general, when it comes to everything, pop culture, all the other things, I think Shannon Sharpe is the GOAT. Like, I just don't know any other person. Maybe I'm missing someone here. You guys can help me down in the comments. But from what I know, it seems like Shannon Sharpe is like the GOAT former athlete when it comes to personality. You know, social media, TV, and all that kind of a thing. So it's really incredible, man. It's really incredible. And the fact that he was supposed to be the other brother. He was supposed to be the other brother, not the main brother. But he turned out to be the main brother. And that just shows you how life can be sometimes. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.